WA6NFJ.
Whiskey Alpha 6, November Foxtrot Juliet, is that correct?
Roger, roger.
Roger. So this is not the first time we talked. We talked, let's see, June 17th. So nice to talk to you again there, Bob. Name here again is I'm still Dave, by the way. How you doing?
Oh, doing good. And I assume you're still in Cadwell, Idaho. Yeah, my logging software just brought you up. And let's see, Canyon County. Yeah. Oh, yes. We have some friends live, my wife has a friend lives down Paradise Valley. Over.
Yeah, Roger. It's good to talk to you again, Bob. And did we get a video of you last time?
I don't know. I don't do videos of myself and that sort of thing. I'm not one of the social media have-to-haves. Over.
Yeah, Roger. We did do a video last time, and I think last time your signal was really good too. You got a great sounding station there. What are you running again?
I've got the Heil Pro 7 headset, ICOM 7610 transceiver, and an ICOM PW1 linear going to a 3-element step IR up at 50 feet. Over.
Yeah, Roger. I'm just making a note of that so next time I have it. Very cool. It works great, Bob. You're doing fantastic. I'm also using the Heil headset, but I'm using the PIC, I think it is, or P1C. It's the cheap version, but it works pretty good. I've got the ICOM 7300 into a G5RV in an L configuration, so it's shaped in a Lima configuration, inverted. It's up about 25 feet in the middle, and then it comes down to about 12 feet off the ground on each end, and it's working pretty good so far. Although I think I did enjoy my homemade verticals that I had put up with my broomstick a little bit better. Seemed like they worked a little bit better than this inverted V dipole. Over.
Yeah, the G5RV that wants to be a flat top inverted V like that. I've got a G5RV I use for 80 meters, but I've gotten to the point where I just use the stepper for everything else. And yeah, the nice thing with the stepper is right now I can look at the power ramp, and the SWR meter's moving maybe a half a needle width. That's because the stepper, of course, is always a resonant antenna, no matter where you go, which band you're on. And I can be, it's a 3-element from 20 through 6, and it's a folded dipole on 40. Over.
Wow, that's pretty cool, man. Do you have that up on your QRZ page? Do you have a picture of it up? Or you don't do the computer stuff, do you?
Oh, I don't have any pictures on my QRZ page. Yeah, I should get some pictures of it, throw up there. I just put text up there. I do manage my QRZ page. Try to keep that going. Although I don't log anything to QRZ unless somebody specifically requests it. Otherwise, it goes up the logbook of the world. I use a program called AC Log for my logging, and when I hit enter, this contact goes up to logbook of the world, and every 10 contacts after 10, it goes up to EQSL and club log. Over.
Roger. What's the name of that one again?
The logging program is Amateur Contact Log. You can try it free for, I think it's 30 days or something. It was as close as I could find to a paper log, and it works real well. And it integrates to WSJTX So when I make contacts over there, it's automatically pushed over into the general log. Over.
Roger, Roger. The amateur contact log, is that the one that's made by N3FJP?
Affirmative. That's the man.
Yeah, that's the one I'm using also, but I didn't know it did all that stuff. That's pretty cool. I'll have to figure out how to make that happen. And I would, yeah, I'd love to see some of the pictures of that, like that antenna. I'd love to see that up on your QRZ page. It'd be neat to get a real good visual of it, you know?
Yeah, I'll have to shoot some pictures. What a man. Oh, once I figure out how to do it. Bad when you were an engineer in the computer world. You can't figure out how to do some of these things. But having been retired for quite a few years, I just let current stuff slip right by me. Anyway, yeah, my station here is pretty much all ICOM. Mainly, excuse me, I was out in my shop working. I've got sawdust in me. I've got the IC 9700 I use for VHF, UHF. I've got a 7000 that's a backup radio for this one. But I've gotten to the point where I really like the spectrum scope so I can see what's going on. It's a lot easier than jerk wiring in the spectrum analyzer I have. Over.
Roger. Which spectrum scope are you using?
Oh, right now the one on the radio. The spectrum scope in the 7610. I have a Hewlett-Packard spectrum analyzer and a Hewlett-Packard signal generator sitting here, and a Tektronix oscilloscope. Over.
Roger, Roger. That's pretty nice setup there, my friend. Sounds really good. I use that what is it, NM1 or something like that. They have a spectrum scope that they have on there. I mean, the radio has one as well, but I like having to be able to click on the screen and jump to a frequency with the spectrum scope that's on the computer. Over.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I touch the screen, it will highlight an area and enlarge it, and then I touch the signal I want in that area, and the radio jumps to it.
Yeah, Roger, Roger. The ICOM does that also, and I enjoy, ICOM 7300 does that as well, and it works great. Just that I like to also have the screen's just too small because I have the spectrum scope up on the radio. I also have the audio signal, so I can see the audio, how that looks on the screen as well. So on the computer, I've got the spectrum scope up, and it covers a wider part of the band, actually from all the way from 14100 all the way to 14350. So I can just click anywhere and it'll jump there. Plus, I get that spotting through Telnet, with Telnet program, and I use the spotting thing, and it brings up all the phone spots around the country, and I can just click on those and jump to that frequency. So it's kind of fun to have the computer interlaced with it and be able to, jump around just with a mouse click. Over.
Oh yeah, yeah. I find it fun to just tune. I'm looking. My spectrum scope shows me everything 100 kc each side of center frequency. So I'm looking at 200 kc. I could expand that and get it 500 kc on each side of center, but then things start to get a little small to look at, to say the least. Anyway, yeah, that's what's going on here. I have the logging program talking to the radio, and it pulls the frequency, band, and mode for me, mode based on where you are in the frequency spectrum. And yeah, I get the time out of the computer, and once or so a day I sync the time to National Bureau of Standards. I've got a 10 megahertz reference plugged into this radio, and that's GPS disciplined. Right now it's showing 10.0000 megahertz. Sometimes I'm 300 or 400 nanohertz off, and how can one tolerate such a thing? Over.
I don't know, man. I don't seem to have a problem tolerating it.
Yeah. Oh, well, WA6NFJ. Yeah. I've also got a couple of these MFJ clocks. One, it's a dual clock. It syncs to the 60 kilohertz signal out of Colorado from WWV, and it has a 10-minute timer in it. And it'll sit there. You start the timer when you start transmitting, and in 9.5 minutes it starts blinking its little light at you to remind you to ID. Over.
Well, that's pretty cool, because I'm always forgetting to do that. Yeah, I love this hobby. There's a lot of nerdy stuff you can get into. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I've been in this hobby for 53 years now. And when I started in this hobby down in the Bay Area, to get on 2 meters or 6 meters or 470 centimeters, you took a commercial radio, GE Progline, Motorola, and you converted it. You changed the crystals and then realigned it so it operated on the amateur bands. Over.
Roger. Yeah, that's a long time ago, man. I've been doing this for a long time. I started in the 80s as a novice, but quickly got out of it when I got a family and couldn't afford it anymore, and just started getting back into it the last couple of years. I still can't afford it, by the way, but I am enjoying it.
Yeah, it's fun. Anyway, you're a nice 5'9" here. I assume I'm a 5'9" to you. I'm pushing enough power your way. I'm showing a peak of about 1,200 watts, thereabouts. Anyway, yeah, the whole station here is solid state. If I want to turn my amp on, what I do is I reach up, press the button, and by the time I've got my hand back down, the amplifier's ready to go.
Well, that's awesome, man. Very cool setup. Yeah, see, you should have pictures up on QRZ so I can see this stuff. I mean, that's I'm a little disappointed, Bob.
It's lazy. I just haven't done it. The antenna, it's nothing much to look at, a stepper. It really isn't. It is 3 or 4, depending on if you have the return loop for 40 meters for the folded dipole. It's 3 fiberglass poles that stick out 17 feet 8 inches on both sides of the boom, and you can't see the copper tape that's pushed out into the pole, and that's it. I mean, a friend has a 4-element. Now, you'll read people complaining on the internet all the time about steppers. As my friend who has the 4-element said, he's had 2 problems, both self-inflicted.
So did you buy that from someplace, or is that something you built yourself, or someone manufactured it?
Step IR up in Bellevue, Washington makes it. I've got a very nice controller for it. I got the upgraded controller, the SDA 2000, and it shows right now that I have 12.6 dBi forward gain and 22 dB front to back and a 66-degree beam width. So I get all the information on a little screen. It does have to have a controller with it, and that controller, also the radio talks to it, so it knows where I'm going and adjusts the antenna appropriately.
Roger. So yours is would yours be a horizontal?
Oh yeah, it's horizontal. Now, a clue about vertical horizontal. If you're going long distances, you're getting a hop through the ionosphere. It doesn't matter if you're vertical or horizontal, because when it goes through the ionosphere, it becomes elliptically polarized. For local communication, if you were talking to somebody ground wave, then it's very important to be the same polarization, because there can be up to 30 dB of isolation between a horizontal and a vertical. Over.
Roger. Hey, Bob, I'm on their website right now, and I don't know if you know this or not, but those are expensive antennas.
Oh, I know. I bought one. I thought I had broken a spool shaft on my original one, and it turned out it was a bad connection in the barrier strip where all the EHUs connect to the control cable. And I could save the shipping costs because it only takes me an hour and 20 minutes to drive up there to pick it up. So I drove up, picked it up. I mean, $50 in fuel's better than $200 in shipping.
Yeah, Roger. Plus you get to drive, you know. I'm always about taking a little ride. You know, if I ever have one of these, it'll be because I built it or I stole it.
Well, you aren't going to build it, I'll say that, because it is a touch complicated. In each of the EHUs, there is a stepper motor that the control box sends pulses to. And it moves the tapes off of the spools out into the fiberglass pole.
Wow.
And the tape moves to the length that... Now, the control box doesn't know where the tape is. It just counts how many pulses it sends out. And like my friend, he had his problems where one of the EHUs was rocking sideways because he didn't tighten the screws that attach it to the mounting plate tight enough and ovaled out the hole. The other problem was he'd somehow gotten a cable, one of the EHU cables, under a band clamp, and it finally cut through the cable. Fortunately, that problem was right up by the antenna at the mast, and he could just climb the tower and fix it. The other one, they had to bring the antenna down and change the mounting plate, and this time they tightened it properly. Over.
Roger. Yeah, I'm looking at this on the QRZ. Not QRZ, on the YouTube. Shut up, Dave. On the internets, and it's a pretty cool antenna, man. I can see why that would be. And when you really think about what they got into it, it's really not that expensive for the technology they put into it.
No, it is a WA6NFJ. Yeah. They have bigger antennas. They have some that have multi-elements on 40 meters and more elements on 20 through 6. You know, it's what you want, how much you can turn in the air. Now, see, my antenna is 10 foot above the top of the mast. The tower is a 40-foot freestander with an aluminum pole going up high enough to get me another 10 feet. And it's the only thing I'm turning with the rotor. I use a Yaesu G1000 to turn the antenna. It's like right now I'm pointed 90 degrees due east, but with 33 degrees each side of center, you're still in the pattern of the antenna. Over.
Yeah, Roger, and it's really doing great. I mean, you're 5'9" plus the whole time we've been talking. You know, the band up and down doesn't seem to be really affecting you. But Bob, you got to get some pictures up, man. This is really cool. I'd like to see this.
Yeah. Somewhere I've got a picture of the bench. I might put that up there too. Oh yes. I got stuff all over the place. But The reason I stick with ICOM isn't that I'm loyal to ICOM. I have Yaesu handhelds, basically because they're waterproof. And in western Washington State, having something that you're going to carry around outside waterproof is an excellent idea. But if something goes wrong with the radio, I can drive it up to Bellevue to the ICOM facility. They have a big repair facility up there, over.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, have you looked at their, they have what they call a urban beam. Have you looked at that one?
I know somebody that has one and loves it. It's designed for people who can't put up big antennas. Now, I'm on 2.5 acres here. I have a 160-meter dipole strung out in a straight line, and I have to have rope from it to the attachment points. I have antenna rope because it's longer than the span between the 2 points I'm mounting to, over.
Yeah, roger that. Yeah, then my situation was I'm in town. And the reason I have my my G5 RV, which is a shorty, by the way, it only goes from 10 to 40 meters. And the reason I have that one in an L configuration is because that's the only way I can fit it on my lot here in town. I've got a bunch of power lines and stuff like that around. Your buddy that has this urban beam, how high up does he have it? How does he have it set up, over?
I believe he's got it up at 30 feet. He actually has it down at his winter place in Arizona, and he loves it. He says, yeah, he's gotten a lot of contacts. Well, this antenna, my 3L, has gotten me worked all states and DXCC, so, I can't complain about it. A lot of it's band conditions. I mean, I remember band conditions when they were super good, and you could talk around the world on 10 meters at night. Over?
Yeah, I've heard rumors about that, so I'm looking forward to seeing that happen again one day. I guess we're on the start of a new solar cycle, so hopefully we'll be able to enjoy that for a while, huh?
Yeah, hopefully. One night on our TechNet, we have a local 10-meter net here. It's called TechNet. That's because the guy that started the net was trying to encourage people with technician licenses to use their voice privileges on 10 meters. And we had a guy from Montana check in one night. He could hear us, over.
Roger. Yeah, I've had some contacts on 10 meters recently that were pretty good. I can't remember exactly where it was. It was some distance. I think I want to say Tennessee, but I'm not really sure. And I'm in Idaho, so it was some good distance though.
Well, I think off my G5 RV, one night I came home from a club meeting. It was the only HF antenna and a vertical that I had up. I was on the G5 using the tuner and the radio on 20. And I heard this station R1ANT calling CQ. I came back to him. I knew he was a Russian because of the R1. I came back to him and found out that the station I was talking to was in Antarctica. Over.
Wow, that's awesome. Fantastic. Kilo Mike 6 Yankee Sierra Sierra here, by the way. Yeah, so that's pretty incredible. 10 meters to the Antarctic.
20 meters to Antarctica with 100 watts. And we were 5.9 plus both ways.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, looking forward to those days again. That'd be pretty cool.
Well, that was, 7-8 years ago. I mean, you got to remember, solar weather is not global. Everything depends on where you are and when you are. And conditions can change. I have listened to a solar physicist talk about these propagations. It's like Dr. Scove says, I don't know why the A index is reported. It's useless to amateur radio. And the K index tells you what's happened for the last 3 hours. not what's happening in the future. Over.
Roger. So what is the A index? What does that represent?
It is a planetary, all of the indexes are what they call smooth planetary indexes for around the equator. That's how they're calculated. The A index, if you're a planetary climatologist, you have some interest in it. The actual thing you want to look at is what the B sub Z and the solar wind is doing. If the B sub Z gets -4 and the solar and is rapidly increasing negative, and the solar wind is rapidly getting stronger, you might as well shut the radio off because there's not going to be a lot of propagation. Over.
Roger. Now I don't see the. Oh, I see it. The BZ. That's the Bravo Zebra. Is that right now at -0.7, and the solar wind is at 365.6, and that's the two numbers you're talking about, right?
Yeah, and those two numbers are good. That's a good number. You have propagation. The solar flux is kind of important because that's how ionized the ionosphere is. And remember, these are all valid for the day side. For the night side, it's like the D layer. The reason we can't use 40 and 80 and 160 during the day is because the D layer sits there and eats those signals for lunch, converts the RF to heat. Over.
Yeah, copy that. I always look at the SFI number because that's the only one that I've really seen a real correlation, the solar flare index, to actual my ability to get around with a good signal. I know when it's up above 80, I can usually get around pretty good, and also the geomagnetic noise level, the geomagnetic field. If it's quiet and that SFI is up, then I usually can do pretty good. If that geomagnetic field gets noisy, it's usually pretty much a struggle, and I usually don't mess with it. Over.
That's true. But you have to remember, the solar flux index is, again, smooth number for mid-latitudes, down closer to the equator. And the geomagnetic field, well, that depends on where you are. If you could find a local geomagnetic number, that's more accurate. You'll note they say that is for Boulder, Colorado. And anything within 100 miles of Boulder, that's a valid number. But you get outside of that, hey, throw out your call and see what happens. Because I've had wonderful contacts to Europe when theoretically I should not have been able to get over the pole. Over.
Yeah, that's true too. I've been able to get Russia at times when you would have thought I wouldn't be able to. As low 70s and the noise level was real high, or not real high, but not as good as it has been at times. But yeah, so I've been able to get some places too. So you're right. It is kind of weird. I wonder if I can find those numbers locally.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't found a local magnetometer around here that's on the internet. It's one of those things. But yeah, one time I was talking with a guy in India, and there's a neat feature in the steppers. If you're pointed, let's say east, and you suddenly want to look west, you punch the button that says reverse.
Wow.
And the director goes out to become the reflector, and the reflector sucks in to be the director.
Yeah, that is really super cool. That looks like a really, really neat antenna. KM6YSS.
WA6NFJ. Yeah, it's a fun antenna. I saw how well my friend did with his 4-element, and I originally had a 3-element that I picked up from someone who'd bought it at an estate sale, couldn't put it up because his neighbor didn't care if the tips of the element overhung the fence. but he wasn't taking the tree down to allow it to rotate.
That's funny. Hey, Bob, it was nice talking with you, man. I've been recording this whole thing, and I'm gonna put it up on YouTube because I think it's just educational material, man. I really appreciate you, and it's nice to talk to you again. I'm gonna say 73s. Go make some lunch, and I'll be back a little bit later. KM6YSS. I'll be clear on your final, Bob.
Okay, Dave. David. Yeah. Get on the internet and look for Tamitha Skov. She's a solar physicist, and she can explain things in terms that us mortals can understand. Anyway, 73, I hope you have a good day. WA6NFJ, clear.
Thanks, Bob. 73.